I was 7 years old when I first learned that happiness wasn't something you could hold in your hands. I remember standing in the checkout line at a grocery store with my grandmother, watching a woman ahead of us frantically searching through her purse for enough change to buy a loaf of bread. Her hands were shaking, and I could see the embarrassment painting her cheeks red as other customers began to notice. The cashier's impatient sigh filled the silence, and time seemed to stretch like taffy in that moment. Then my grandmother stepped forward. Without a word, she placed a gentle hand on the woman's shoulder and quietly paid for not just the bread, but filled that woman's entire cart with groceries. I watched as tears of relief flooded the stranger's eyes. And something magical happened in that ordinary Tuesday afternoon in aisle 3. The woman's face transformed from desperation to pure joy. But what struck me most wasn't her happiness. It was my grandmother's. As we walked to our car, I asked my grandmother why she looked so happy when she'd just given away money we probably needed ourselves. She stopped, knelt down to my eye level, and said something that would echo through every day of my life that followed. Sweetheart, happiness isn't something you find at the end of a rainbow. It's something you create in the middle of the storm. At 7, I didn't fully understand those words. But today, decades later, as I stand before you with stories of triumph and failure, of dreams achieved and dreams deferred, of love found and love lost, I finally comprehend the profound truth my grandmother shared that day. Happiness is not a destination you arrive at after checking off all the boxes society has handed you. Happiness is not the golden prize waiting for you at the finish line of life. Happiness is the conscious choice you make in every single moment. In every breath you take, in every step you walk along this magnificent, messy, miraculous journey called life. We live in a world that has sold us the greatest lie ever told, that happiness lives somewhere else, somewhere in the future, in a different city, in a different job, in a different relationship, in a different bank account, in a different body, in a different life entirely. We've been conditioned to believe that happiness is a reward for perfect behavior, perfect circumstances, perfect timing. We've been taught to chase happiness like it's a butterfly that will land on our shoulder only when we've done enough, earned enough, become enough. But what if I told you that this entire premise is not just wrong, but destructively wrong? What if I told you that every moment you spend waiting for happiness to arrive is a moment of happiness you're actively choosing to forfeit? What if I told you that the very act of seeking happiness outside yourself is the one thing guaranteed to keep happiness forever out of reach? Listen to me carefully, because what I'm about to share with you has the power to transform not just how you feel, but how you experience every single day of your existence on this planet. Happiness is not an achievement to be unlocked. It's not a prize to be won. It's not a feeling that visits you when your life finally looks the way you think it should look. Happiness is a practice. It's a choice. It's a way of moving through the world that you can access right now, in this very moment, regardless of your circumstances, regardless of your past, regardless of your fears about the future. The ancient Greeks had 2 words for happiness that we've somehow condensed into one in English. And in doing so, we've lost the most important distinction in human psychology. They spoke of hedonia, the happiness that comes from pleasure, from external circumstances, from getting what we want. This is the happiness our culture obsesses over. This is the happiness of the new car, the perfect vacation, the social media likes, the promotion, the relationship status that finally makes us feel worthy. But they also spoke of eudaimonia, the happiness that comes from meaning, from living in alignment with your deepest values, from the sense that your life has purpose beyond your personal pleasure. This is the happiness my grandmother experienced in that grocery store. This is the happiness that doesn't depend on external validation or perfect circumstances. This is the happiness that can coexist with struggle, with uncertainty, with pain, with loss. The tragedy of our time is that we become addicted to hedonia while starving ourselves of eudaimonia. We become pleasure-seeking missiles, constantly scanning the horizon for the next hit of external validation, the next achievement, the next purchase, the next experience that will finally fill the void inside us. And when that temporary high fades, as it always does, we assume we just haven't found the right thing yet. We assume happiness is still out there, waiting for us to become worthy of it. But here's what I've learned from studying the lives of the happiest people throughout history. From Marcus Aurelius to Maya Angelou, from Viktor Frankl to Oprah Winfrey, from everyday heroes like my grandmother to extraordinary visionaries like Nelson Mandela, happiness is not found in the absence of problems. Happiness is found in the presence of purpose. Happiness is not the result of perfect circumstances. Happiness is the result of perfect perspective. Every person who has ever inspired others, who has ever created lasting change, who has ever found deep fulfillment in life, understood this fundamental truth. The quality of your life is not determined by what happens to you. The quality of your life is determined by what you choose to focus on, what meaning you assign to your experiences, and how you decide to respond to the inevitable challenges that every human being faces. Thomas Edison didn't become one of history's greatest inventors by waiting for the perfect laboratory, the perfect funding, or the perfect circumstances. He chose happiness in the midst of failure, finding joy in each experiment that brought him closer to breakthrough. When asked about his 1,000 failed attempts to create the light bulb, he didn't see failure at all. He saw 1,000 ways that didn't work, and he was grateful for each one because it meant he was one step closer to the way that would work. This is the mindset that separates those who live fulfilled lives from those who spend their entire existence waiting for fulfillment to arrive. This is the perspective that transforms every setback into a setup, every failure into feedback, every challenge into a chance to grow stronger, wiser, more compassionate. Carnegie, before he became the steel magnate, we remember today, was a poor immigrant child working in a cotton factory for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. But he made a choice that would define not just his success, but his happiness. He chose to see every difficult day as an investment in his future self. He chose to find joy in learning, in growing, in becoming. He didn't wait until he was wealthy to be happy. He was happy while building his wealth. And that happiness, that inner state of purpose and determination, is what attracted the opportunities that transformed his life. You see, this is what we've gotten backwards in our understanding of success and happiness. We think happiness is the result of success, but every breakthrough in human psychology tells us the opposite is true. Success is the result of happiness. When you choose happiness as your default state, when you decide that your inner peace is not negotiable, when you commit to finding meaning and purpose in your current circumstances rather than waiting for different circumstances, you become magnetic to the very opportunities and relationships and experiences you've been seeking. But choosing happiness doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It doesn't mean putting on a fake smile and denying the real struggles you face. True happiness, sustainable happiness, the kind of happiness that can weather any storm, comes from radical acceptance of what is, combined with unstoppable commitment to what could be. Viktor Frankl, writing from the depths of Nazi concentration camps, gave us perhaps the most powerful testament to human resilience ever recorded. In the face of unimaginable suffering, he made a choice that saved not just his life, but his soul. He chose to find meaning in his pain. He chose to believe that his suffering could serve a purpose greater than himself. He chose happiness not as denial of his circumstances, but as defiance against the idea that circumstances have the final say in the quality of human experience. This is the choice available to you right now. In whatever circumstances you're facing, this is the power that no person in all situation. No setback can ever take away from you the power to choose your response, to assign meaning to your experience, to decide that your happiness is not dependent on external approval or perfect conditions. Number, the foundation of true happiness, mastering your inner world. The journey to lasting happiness begins with a revolutionary realization. You are not at the mercy of your thoughts, emotions, or circumstances. You are the conscious creator of your inner experience, the architect of your own mental and emotional landscape. But most of us have never been taught this fundamental truth. We've been conditioned to believe that we are prisoners of our past, victims of our circumstances, or slaves to our automatic reactions. I want you to imagine your mind as a garden right now as you listen to these words. That garden contains both flowers and weeds. The flowers represent your dreams, your values, your capacity for love, gratitude. And growth, the weeds represent your fears, limiting beliefs, negative thought patterns, and self-destructive habits. Here's the truth that will change everything for you every single day. You get to choose which plants you water. Most people water their weeds. They spend their mental energy focusing on what's wrong, what's missing, what's scary, what's unfair. They rehearse their problems, replay their failures, obsess over their insecurities. And then they wonder why their garden produces so little beauty, so little peace, so little joy. They've been unconsciously cultivating unhappiness while consciously seeking happiness. But what if you decided today to become a master gardener of your own mind? What if you made the commitment to water only the thoughts, beliefs, and mental habits that serve your highest good? What if you chose to give your attention, your most precious resource, only to the mental seeds that produce the fruit of happiness, peace, and fulfillment? This is not positive thinking. This is not pretending problems don't exist. This is conscious thinking. This is strategic thinking. This is understanding that your attention is like sunlight in your mental garden. And whatever you consistently focus on will inevitably grow stronger in your life. Abraham Lincoln, during the darkest days of the Civil War, when the future of the nation hung by a thread and criticism came from every direction, made a choice that preserved not only his sanity, but his ability to lead with wisdom and compassion. He chose to focus not on the magnitude of the problems he faced, but on the magnitude of the purpose he served. He didn't deny the reality of the war, the casualties, the political pressure. Instead, he found meaning in the struggle, purpose in the pain, and hope in the possibility that something beautiful could emerge from something terrible. This is the mental mastery that transforms ordinary people into extraordinary forces for good in the world. This is the inner work that creates outer results. This is the foundation upon which all lasting happiness is built. Your thoughts are not facts. Your emotions are not permanent. Your current circumstances are not your final destination. You are not broken, incomplete, or somehow deficient. You are a masterpiece in progress, a work of art still being painted, a story still being written, and the pen is in your hand. But here's where most people get stuck. They try to control their thoughts by fighting them, suppressing them, or pretending they don't exist. This is like trying to calm turbulent water by hitting it with a stick. The more you resist unwanted thoughts and emotions, the more persistent they become. The secret to mental mastery is not control, it's awareness, acceptance, and conscious redirection. When a negative thought enters your mind, instead of getting frustrated with yourself for having it, try responding with curiosity. Isn't that interesting? Here's that old fear trying to get my attention again. Instead of judging yourself for feeling anxious or sad or angry, try responding with compassion. Of course I'm feeling this way. I'm human, and I'm dealing with challenging circumstances. This feeling is valid, and it will pass. This shift from resistance to acceptance, from judgment to curiosity, from self-attack to self-compassion, is the beginning of true inner freedom. When you stop fighting your inner experience and start observing it with kind awareness, you create space between yourself and your thoughts, between yourself and your emotions. In that space, you discover your power to choose your response rather than being controlled by your reactions. Maya Angelou, who survived trauma that would have destroyed many people, learned this secret early in her recovery from selective mutism. She discovered that she could not control what had happened to her, but she could control what she allowed those experiences to mean about her worth, her future, her capacity for joy. She made the radical choice to see her suffering not as evidence of her brokenness, but as the foundation of her strength, wisdom, and compassion. This is the alchemy of happiness, transforming pain into purpose, obstacles into opportunities, setbacks into comebacks. This is not about denying the reality of suffering or pretending that positive thinking alone can solve every problem. This is about recognizing that within every challenge lies the seeds of growth. Within every ending lies the possibility of a new beginning. Within every moment of darkness lies the opportunity to appreciate light. But let's get practical about this, because understanding these concepts intellectually is only the first step. The real transformation happens when you begin to implement specific practices that rewire your brain for happiness, resilience, and inner peace. Your brain is not fixed. Neuroscience has given us the incredible gift of understanding neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to create new neural pathways at any age, in any circumstances. Every time you choose a grateful thought over a resentful one, every time you respond to criticism with curiosity instead of defensiveness, every time you find meaning in difficulty instead of drowning in self-pity, you are literally rewiring your brain for happiness. Start each morning by asking yourself one simple question: what can I appreciate about this day before it even begins? This is not about forcing positivity or denying legitimate concerns. This is about training your attention to notice what's working in your life before it gets hijacked by what's not working. When you begin your day from a foundation of gratitude, you prime your brain to continue looking for things to appreciate throughout the day. Throughout the day, practice what I call conscious pausing. Before reacting to frustrating situations, before responding to challenging people, before making important decisions, take one conscious breath and ask yourself, how do I want to show up in this moment? What kind of person do I want to be right now? This simple practice creates space between stimulus and response, and in that space lies your freedom to choose happiness over reactivity, wisdom over impulsiveness, love over fear. End each day by reflecting on 3 specific things that went well, no matter how small, and identify your role in making them happen. This practice, validated by decades of positive psychology research, trains your brain to notice your own agency, your own power to influence outcomes, your own capacity to create positive experiences even in imperfect circumstances. Henry Ford revolutionized not just the automobile industry, but our understanding of human potential with one simple insight: whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Your beliefs about what's possible for your life, your happiness, your growth become self-fulfilling prophecies. If you believe happiness is reserved for other people, for different circumstances, for some future version of yourself, that belief will create a reality that confirms its own truth. But if you choose to believe that happiness is your birthright, that joy is your natural state, that peace is always available to you regardless of external circumstances, that belief will create a very different reality. You will begin to notice opportunities for happiness that were always there but invisible to your previous mindset. You will attract people and experiences that match your inner state of contentment and gratitude. You will discover that happiness is not something you achieve, but something you are. This inner work, this conscious cultivation of mental and emotional habits that serve your highest good is not selfish. It's the most generous gift you can give to the world. When you take responsibility for your own happiness, you stop looking to other people to fill the void inside you. When you find peace within yourself, you become a source of peace for others. When you choose joy as your default state, you give everyone around you permission to do the same. Your happiness matters, not just for you, but for every life you touch, every person you encounter, every relationship you participate in. You cannot give what you do not have, and you cannot lead others to a place you've never been yourself. The journey to inner happiness, to unshakable peace, to resilient joy is not just personal development. It's the foundation of your contribution to humanity. Number, transforming your relationship with adversity. Every great story of human triumph contains the same essential element, a protagonist who learns not to avoid adversity, but to transform their relationship with it. The difference between those who thrive and those who merely survive is not the absence of challenges, but the presence of a mindset that views challenges as opportunities for growth, strength, and wisdom. I learned this lesson in the most unexpected place, sitting in a hospital waiting room at 3 a.m., holding my father's hand as he fought for his life after a massive heart attack. For 12 hours, I watched the monitors, listened to the machines, and wrestled with questions that had no easy answers. Why do good people suffer? Why do plans fall apart? Why does life seem to knock us down just when we think we're finally getting ahead? As dawn broke through the hospital windows, my father opened his eyes and looked at me with a clarity I'll never forget. His first words weren't about the pain, the fear, or the uncertainty of his recovery. His first words were, "Son." I've never been more grateful to see another sunrise. In that moment, facing the possibility of death, he had found not despair, but profound appreciation for life itself. That experience shattered my naive belief that happiness meant the absence of problems. It revealed a deeper truth. Happiness is not found despite difficulties, but often because of them. Adversity has a unique power to strip away everything superficial and reveal what truly matters. It forces us to discover strength we didn't know we possessed, to develop resilience we never thought we'd need, to find meaning in experiences we never wanted to have. But here's what most people get wrong about adversity. They see it as evidence that something has gone wrong in their lives, that they've made mistakes, that they're being punished or tested unfairly. This perspective turns every challenge into a source of suffering, every setback into a reason for self-pity, every obstacle into proof that happiness is not meant for them. The truth is radically different. Adversity is not a detour from your path to happiness. Adversity is the path. Every challenge you face is an invitation to become stronger, wiser, more compassionate, more resilient. Every setback is a setup for a comeback that will be more meaningful because it was earned through struggle. Every moment of darkness is an opportunity to discover the light that exists within you, independent of external circumstances. Consider the story of Walt Disney, who was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination and having no good ideas. He started his first animation company, Laugh-O-Gram Films, which promptly went bankrupt. He was told that Mickey Mouse would fail because a giant mouse on screen would terrify women. He was rejected by hundreds of investors before finally finding someone willing to believe in his vision. Disney didn't see these failures as signs that he should give up on his dreams. He saw them as feedback, as course corrections, as necessary steps in the process of creating something unprecedented. He understood that every no was bringing him closer to the right yes, that every failure was teaching him something essential for his eventual success. that every moment of doubt was an opportunity to deepen his faith in his own vision. This is the mindset that transforms adversity from an enemy into an ally. When you understand that challenges are not obstacles to your happiness, but opportunities to develop the very qualities that make deep happiness possible: resilience, courage, compassion, wisdom, faith. You stop trying to avoid difficulties and start learning to navigate them with grace. The ancient Stoic philosophers understood this principle deeply. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his personal journal while leading the Roman Empire through plague, war, and political turmoil, developed what might be the most practical philosophy of happiness ever conceived. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is not passive acceptance of harmful situations or unjust treatment. This is not giving up your power to create positive change in your life and in the world. This is recognizing that your peace, your joy, your sense of meaning and purpose cannot be held hostage by external circumstances if you refuse to give them that power. Every person who has ever inspired others has learned to find strength in struggle, purpose in pain, growth in adversity. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison and emerged not bitter, but more committed than ever to creating a just and peaceful society. He understood that his imprisonment could either destroy him or develop him, and he chose development. He chose to use his time in confinement to deepen his compassion, strengthen his resolve, and clarify his vision for the future. Oprah Winfrey survived poverty, abuse, and discrimination that could have easily justified a lifetime of anger and resentment. Instead, she chose to transform her pain into purpose, her wounds into wisdom, her struggles into strength. She understood that her difficult experiences were not disqualifications from happiness and success, but qualifications for helping others heal, grow, and thrive. This is the alchemy of adversity, transmuting the lead of difficult experiences into the gold of wisdom, compassion, and strength. But this transformation doesn't happen automatically. It requires a conscious choice, repeated daily, to look for the gift hidden within every challenge, to find the lesson embedded in every loss, to discover the opportunity concealed within every obstacle. When you lose a job, instead of only seeing the financial stress and uncertainty, you can also choose to see the opportunity to reassess your priorities, to explore new possibilities, to develop skills you never thought you'd need. When a relationship ends, instead of only feeling the pain of rejection and loneliness, you can also choose to see the chance to rediscover yourself, to learn about love and compatibility, to create space for someone more aligned with your values and dreams. When health challenges arise, instead of only focusing on the fear and inconvenience, you can also choose to see the invitation to slow down, to appreciate your body's incredible capacity for healing, to deepen your gratitude for simple pleasures like breathing without effort or sleeping without pain. This perspective shift doesn't minimize legitimate suffering or pretend that all experiences are equally pleasant. It recognizes that within every human experience, even the most difficult ones, lie opportunities for growth, connection, meaning, and yes, even happiness. Not the shallow happiness of getting everything you want, but the deep happiness of becoming who you're meant to be. Franklin D. Roosevelt, paralyzed by polio at the height of his political career, could have seen his disability as the end of his dreams. Instead, he saw it as the beginning of a deeper understanding of human struggle and resilience. His personal experience with adversity gave him the empathy and determination to lead America through the Great Depression and World War II. His physical limitations became the foundation of his emotional and spiritual strength. The key to transforming your relationship with adversity lies in asking better questions instead of, why is this happening to me? ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of, how can I avoid pain, ask, how can I grow through this experience? Instead of, when will this be over? Ask, who am I becoming because of this challenge? These questions shift your focus from victim to student, from powerless to empowered, from resentful to grateful. They activate the part of your brain that looks for solutions rather than dwelling on problems, that seeks meaning rather than staying stuck in suffering, that finds hope rather than surrendering to despair. But let's be clear about something. Choosing to find meaning in adversity doesn't mean you should passively accept harmful situations or stay in toxic environments. True wisdom knows the difference between challenges that are meant to develop you and circumstances that are meant to be changed. The Serenity Prayer captures this perfectly. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Some adversities are external, economic downturns, natural disasters, other people's choices that affect your life. Your power lies not in controlling these events, but in controlling your response to them. Some adversities are internal, self-doubt, fear, limiting beliefs, destructive habits. Your power lies in doing the inner work necessary to heal, grow, and transform these patterns. And some adversities are interpersonal, difficult relationships, toxic work environments, family dysfunction. Your power lies in setting healthy boundaries, communicating your needs clearly, and making conscious choices about which relationships serve your highest good and which ones drain your energy and peace. The goal is not to become invulnerable to pain, that's impossible, and would actually limit your capacity for joy, love, and deep connection. The goal is to become resilient, to develop the inner strength and wisdom that allows you to navigate life's inevitable ups and downs without losing your center, your values, your commitment to growth and contribution. This resilience is built through practice, through conscious choice, through daily decisions to respond to small frustrations with patience, to meet minor setbacks with creativity, to approach interpersonal conflicts with curiosity rather than defensiveness. Every time you choose a response that aligns with your highest values rather than your immediate emotions, you build the mental and emotional muscle that will serve you when facing major challenges. Steve Jobs, facing his own mortality after being diagnosed with cancer, didn't waste time on regret or self-pity. Instead, he used his remaining years to create some of Apple's most innovative products and to deliver what became one of the most powerful commencement speeches ever given. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to. Avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. This is the gift that adversity offers when you're willing to receive it clarity. Challenges strip away the trivial and reveal the essential. Difficulties show you what you're really made of. Setbacks force you to discover resources you didn't know you possessed. Loss teaches you what truly matters. Pain develops your capacity for compassion. Uncertainty builds your faith in your ability to handle whatever comes. Every adversity you face is secretly asking you the same question: who are you going to choose to be in this moment? Your answer to that question, repeated across thousands of moments over the course of your life, becomes the story of who you are, the legacy you leave, the example you set for others facing their own challenges. Choose to be someone who finds strength in struggle, meaning in difficulty, growth in adversity. Choose to be someone who uses every setback as a setup for a comeback, every ending as a beginning, every moment of darkness as an opportunity to kindle the light within. Choose to be someone whose happiness is not dependent on external circumstances, but rooted in inner strength, wisdom, and an unshakable faith in your ability to handle whatever life presents. The power of present moment awareness. There is a moment that exists between your breath in and your breath out, between your heartbeat and the next, between this word and the one that follows. In that moment, this moment, lies the secret to happiness that has eluded humanity for centuries. We have been searching for joy in the past through memories and nostalgia, seeking fulfillment in the future through plans and dreams, while completely missing the only place where happiness actually exists right here, right now. In this present moment, I discovered this truth during what should have been the happiest day of my career. After years of working toward a major professional milestone, the moment finally arrived. I was standing on stage, receiving an award I'd dreamed about for decades, surrounded by colleagues and friends celebrating my achievement. But instead of feeling the joy I'd anticipated, my mind was already racing ahead to the next goal, the next challenge, the next milestone that would really make me happy. As I held that award in my hands, I realized I'd spent so much time chasing the future that I had forgotten how to be present for the moments that were supposed to make the chase worthwhile. I had become addicted to the pursuit of happiness while being completely unable to recognize happiness when it arrived. This is the tragedy of modern living. We've become time travelers, constantly journeying into the past to relive old wounds or glory days, or projecting into the future to worry about problems that may never occur, or fantasize about achievements that will somehow complete us. Meanwhile, life, real life, with all its beauty, opportunity, and possibility is happening right now. In this moment, while we're mentally elsewhere, the present moment is not just where happiness lives, it's where life lives. Every breath you take, every heartbeat, every sensation, every emotion, every opportunity for connection, growth, and joy exists only in the now. The past is a memory. The future is imagination. But this moment is reality. And when you learn to fully inhabit your present moment experience, you discover that happiness was never missing. You were missing from happiness. Buddha, sitting under the Bodhi tree 500 years ago, discovered this fundamental truth that would transform millions of lives. Suffering comes from attachment to what was or craving for what might be, while peace comes from full acceptance of what is. He understood that the mind's tendency to escape the present moment is the root of all human dissatisfaction, and that liberation comes through learning to rest in present moment awareness with complete acceptance and appreciation. But present moment awareness is not passive resignation or mindless acceptance of harmful situations. It's the most powerful state of consciousness possible, a state of complete clarity, full engagement, and maximum creativity. When you're fully present, you see opportunities that were invisible when your mind was elsewhere. You respond to challenges with wisdom rather than reacting from old patterns. You connect with others more deeply because you're actually there for the conversation. The relationship, the shared experience. Think about the times in your life when you felt most alive, most connected, most at peace. I guarantee you were fully present in those moments. You weren't thinking about your to-do list during a sunset that took your breath away. You weren't planning tomorrow's meetings while holding your newborn child. You weren't rehashing old arguments while dancing to your favorite song. You were completely here, completely now, completely alive. This is the state of consciousness that mystics call enlightenment, that psychologists call flow, that athletes call being in the zone. It's not a mystical experience reserved for spiritual masters or peak performers. It's your natural state, available to you in every moment. If you choose to return your attention to where you actually are instead of where your mind thinks you should be. Eckhart Tolle, after years of depression and anxiety, discovered this truth in a moment of profound despair. As he contemplated ending his life, he suddenly became aware of the voice in his head that was creating his suffering, the voice that constantly judged, worried, compared, and criticized. In that moment of awareness, he realized he was not that voice. He was the awareness observing the voice. This realization transformed not just his life, but his understanding of human consciousness itself. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are not your memories or your plans or your fears or your desires. You are the aware presence that observes all of these mental phenomena. The consciousness that experiences life but is not defined by the content of that experience. When you recognize this truth, not intellectually, but experientially, you discover an unshakable peace that exists independent of external circumstances. This recognition comes through practice, through repeatedly returning your attention to the present moment whenever you notice your mind has wandered into past or future. It's simple, but not easy, because we've been conditioned to believe that happiness lies anywhere except where we are right now. Your breath is always available as an anchor to the present moment. No matter what's happening in your life, no matter how chaotic your circumstances, you can always return to the simple reality of breathing in and breathing out. This breath, this moment, this heartbeat, this is where your power lies, where your peace resides, where your happiness awaits your attention. When you're stuck in traffic, instead of getting frustrated about being late, you can choose to appreciate having a few unexpected minutes to listen to music you love, to practice gratitude, to simply breathe and be alive. When you're waiting in line, instead of getting impatient about the delay, you can choose to observe the interesting people around you, to practice patience as a form of strength training for your character, to enjoy a few moments of not having to be anywhere or do anything. When you're facing a difficult conversation, instead of dreading the discomfort, you can choose to be fully present for the other person's experience, to listen with genuine curiosity and compassion, to trust that staying present will give you access to wisdom and words that aren't available when your mind is racing with defensive strategies. This shift from time traveling to present moment living transforms not just your experience of individual moments, but your entire relationship with life itself. You stop waiting for happiness to arrive and start noticing the happiness that's already here. You stop postponing peace until circumstances improve and start accessing the peace that exists beneath all circumstances. You stop seeking fulfillment in future achievements and start finding fulfillment in present moment engagement with whatever you're doing right now. Michael Jordan didn't become the greatest basketball player of all time by thinking about previous games or future championships while the ball was in his hands. He became legendary by being completely present for every possession, every play, every moment of the game. His ability to stay present under pressure, to be completely here when it mattered most, is what separated him from other incredibly talented athletes. This same principle applies to every area of life. The best parents are not those who are thinking about work while playing with their children. They're the ones who are fully present for bedtime stories, scrape the knäs, and silly conversations. The most successful entrepreneurs are not those who are constantly worried about competition or dreaming about IPOs. They're the ones who are fully engaged with today's opportunities, challenges, and customers. The deepest relationships are not built by people who are mentally rehearsing what they want to say next while their partner is talking. They're created by people who are genuinely present for each other's thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Present moment awareness is not about having no plans for the future or learning nothing from the past. It's about recognizing that planning and learning happen most effectively when you're fully present for the process. When you're completely here while making plans, those plans are more likely to be realistic, creative, and aligned with your values. When you're fully present while reflecting on past experiences, that reflection is more likely to yield genuine wisdom rather than endless rumination. But the greatest gift of present moment living is that it reveals the extraordinary nature of ordinary experiences. When you're fully present while drinking your morning coffee, you taste flavors and experience warmth and comfort that were completely missed when your mind was already at the office. When you're completely present while walking, you notice beauty in architecture, nature, and human interactions that were invisible when you were mentally planning your day. When you're fully present while talking with a friend, you connect at a depth that creates lasting memories and strengthens relationships in ways that distracted conversations never can. Ralph Waldo Emerson captured this beautifully. Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path, and leave a trail. The path to happiness that most people follow leads into the future, to the next achievement, the next relationship, the next stage of life where they believe fulfillment awaits. But the pathless path, the trail that few discover, leads directly into this moment, where fulfillment has been waiting all along. The practice of present moment awareness begins with small moments throughout your day. When you wake up, instead of immediately reaching for your phone to check messages and news, take 3 conscious breaths and notice what it feels like to be alive in your body right now. When you eat, instead of scrolling through social media or watching television, pay attention to the actual experience of nourishing your body, the textures, flavors, and satisfaction of each bite. When you're walking, instead of using every moment of movement to make phone calls or listen to podcasts, occasionally walk in silence and notice the miracle of your body carrying you through space. The feeling of air on your skin, the sounds and sights around you that you've been unconsciously filtering out, these moments of presence are not time wasted, they're time reclaimed. They're investments in your capacity for joy, your ability to connect, your skill at finding peace and happiness, regardless of external circumstances. Each moment you spend fully present is a moment of your life that you actually experience instead of merely surviving. Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn, who brought mindfulness meditation into mainstream medicine, discovered that patients who learned present moment awareness not only experienced less anxiety and depression, but actually showed measurable improvements in immune function, blood pressure, and overall physical health. The simple act of learning to be present for their own experience created profound healing at every level of their being. This is because presence is not just a mental state, it's a physiological state. When you're fully present, your nervous system shifts out of the chronic stress response that characterizes modern living and into a state of calm alertness that optimizes every system in your body. Your digestion improves, your sleep deepens, your creativity increases, your relationships strengthen, and yes, your natural capacity for happiness is restored. The irony is that we've been taught to believe that happiness requires more time, more achievements, more possessions, more experiences, more validation. But the truth is that happiness requires less mental noise, less time traveling, less resistance to what is, less attachment to what was or what might be. Happiness is not an addition to your life. It's what remains when you stop subtracting yourself from your own experience through constant mental distraction, number, redefining success and building authentic self-worth. The greatest robbery in human history is not a bank heist or a corporate scandal. It's the theft of authentic self-worth that happens when we allow society to define success for us. From the moment we're old enough to understand language, we're bombarded with messages about what it means to be valuable, worthy, successful, get good grades, attend the right school, land the prestigious job, make impressive money, buy the perfect house, marry the ideal partner, raise exceptional children, accumulate social media followers. And somehow, if you check off enough boxes on someone else's list, you'll finally feel good enough. But here's the devastating truth, that millions of people discover too late external validation is an addiction that can never be satisfied, no amount of achievement. Accumulation or approval can fill the void created by not knowing your own inherent worth. You can spend your entire life chasing society's definition of success and still feel empty, anxious, and unfulfilled because you've been seeking love, acceptance, and meaning in places where they simply don't exist. I learned this lesson through watching my mentor, a man who had achieved everything our culture tells us we should want. He had built a multi-million-dollar company, owned homes in 3 countries, was featured on magazine covers, and was invited to speak at the most prestigious conferences in his industry. From the outside, his life looked like the ultimate success story, but behind closed doors, he was miserable. He told me something I'll never forget. I spent 40 years climbing the ladder of success, only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. He had achieved society's definition of success while completely losing touch with his own definition of a meaningful life. He had gained the whole world while losing his soul. And now, in his 60s, he was trying to figure out who he actually was beneath all the achievements and accolades. This is the tragic cost of allowing external sources to determine your self-worth. You become a stranger to yourself. You lose touch with your authentic desires, values, and dreams. Because you've been so focused on pursuing someone else's version of the good life, you develop a false self that performs for approval while your true self remains buried beneath layers of conditioning, expectations, and fear of judgment. True success, the kind that creates lasting happiness and fulfillment, cannot be defined by external metrics. It can only be defined by internal alignment. It's the success of becoming who you're meant to be rather than who you think others want you to be. It's the success of living according to your values rather than society's values. It's the success of creating a life that feels authentic to you rather than impressive to others. But how do you discover your authentic definition of success when you've been conditioned to measure yourself by external standards for so long? How do you rebuild genuine self-worth when your sense of value has been dependent on performance, achievement, and approval? How do you learn to trust your own inner compass when you've been following other people's maps for most of your life? The journey back to authentic self-worth begins with a radical act of courage, the willingness to disappoint people whose approval you've been seeking. This doesn't mean becoming selfish or inconsiderate. It means recognizing that living to please others is actually a form of dishonesty that serves no one well. When you hide your true self to gain approval, you rob others of the opportunity to know and love the real you. And you rob yourself of the possibility of authentic connection and fulfillment. Eleanor Roosevelt, who transformed from a shy, insecure young woman into one of the most influential figures of the 20th century, discovered this truth through painful experience. For years, she tried to be the perfect wife, mother, and socialite according to society's expectations. But it wasn't until she began to trust her own values and speak her own truth, even when it was unpopular, that she found both her voice and her power. Her famous words, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent," came from a hard-won understanding that self-worth is an inside job. Other people can offer opinions, criticism, praise, or judgment, but they cannot determine your value unless you give them that power. Your worth is not up for vote, not dependent on consensus, not subject to market fluctuations based on your latest performance. You are valuable because you exist, not because of what you do. You are worthy of love and respect because you are human, not because you've earned enough points through achievement. You deserve happiness and fulfillment because you are alive. Not because you've somehow proven yourself worthy through external success. This is not feel-good philosophy. This is psychological truth validated by decades of research into human motivation and well-being. People who tie their self-worth to external achievements experience higher levels of anxiety, depression, and burnout, even when they achieve their goals. Meanwhile, people who base their self-worth on internal factors, their values, character, growth, and contribution, experience greater life satisfaction, resilience, and authentic happiness, regardless of external circumstances. But recognizing your inherent worth intellectually is different from feeling it emotionally and living it practically. The shift from external validation to internal validation requires consistent practice, patience with yourself during the transition, and the willingness to tolerate the discomfort of changing deeply ingrained patterns. Steve Jobs, despite all his external success, struggled with this balance throughout his life. In his later years, he reflected on the importance of not letting others' opinions drown out your inner voice. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. This inner voice he speaks of is not the voice of ego or wishful thinking. It's the voice of authentic wisdom that emerges when you're quiet enough to listen, honest enough to hear what it's really saying, and brave enough to follow its guidance even when it leads you away from conventional paths. Your authentic self knows what brings you genuine satisfaction, what activities make you lose track of time, what values are non-negotiable for you, what kind of people you feel most yourself around, what contribution you want to make to the world. But this voice is often whispered while the voices of society, family expectations, peer pressure, and fear shout their demands. Learning to hear and trust your inner voice requires creating space for silence, reflection, and honest self-examination. It means asking yourself questions that have no right or wrong answers, only authentic or inauthentic ones. What would I do with my life if I knew I couldn't fail? What would I pursue if no one else's opinion mattered? What activities make me feel most alive and engaged? What kind of person do I want to be remembered as? What legacy do I want to leave? These questions are not meant to be answered quickly or superficially. They're meant to be lived into, explored over time, and allowed to evolve as you grow and change. Your authentic definition of success at 25 may be very different from your definition at 45. And that's not inconsistency, that's growth. Maya Angelou spent years trying to fit into other people's definitions of who she should be, and it nearly destroyed her spirit. It wasn't until she began to honor her own voice, tell her own stories, and define success on her own terms that she found both her power and her peace. She understood that authenticity is not a destination but a practice, the daily choice to show up as who you really are rather than who you think you should be. This practice of authenticity is particularly challenging in our social media age, where we're constantly exposed to curated versions of other people's lives and achievements. It's easy to fall into the comparison trap, measuring your behind-the-scenes reality against others' highlight reels, forgetting that everyone is fighting battles. You know nothing about struggling with insecurities you can't see and dealing with challenges that don't make it into their public personas. Theodore Roosevelt wisely observed, comparison is the thief of joy. When you measure your life against someone else's, you rob yourself of the ability to appreciate your own journey, growth, and unique contribution. You also rob yourself of the motivation to pursue your authentic path because you're too busy trying to replicate someone else's. Your life is not a competition, it's a creative expression. There's no one else who can live your life, fulfill your purpose, or contribute your unique gifts to the world. Trying to be a better version of someone else is infinitely harder and less fulfilling than becoming the best version of yourself. But what does it mean to become the best version of yourself? It doesn't mean perfection. It means progression. It doesn't mean never making mistakes. It means learning from them. It doesn't mean having no flaws. It means accepting your humanity while consistently working to grow, contribute, and become more aligned with your highest values. The best version of yourself is the one who shows up authentically in relationships, who contributes meaningfully to something greater than personal gain, who treats others with kindness and respect regardless of what you can get from them, who faces challenges with courage and setbacks with resilience, who celebrates others' success without diminishing your own worth, who takes responsibility for your choices and their consequences. This version of success, character-based rather than achievement-based, creates sustainable happiness because it's within your control. You cannot control whether you get the promotion, win the award, or achieve the recognition you desire. But you can control whether you act with integrity, treat others with compassion, keep growing and learning, and contribute positively to the lives of those around you. Warren Buffett, despite being one of the wealthiest people in history, measures his success not by his net worth, but by whether the people who know him best love and respect him. He understands that external achievements are meaningless if they come at the cost of character, relationships, and inner peace. This shift from external validation to internal validation, from society's definition of success to your own authentic definition, is not a one-time decision, but a daily practice. Every day. You'll face choices between doing what looks impressive and doing what feels authentic, between seeking approval and seeking alignment, between proving your worth and knowing your worth. Choose authenticity. Choose alignment. Choose the quiet confidence that comes from knowing who you are and living according to your own values rather than others' expectations. Choose the success that can never be taken away from you because it's not dependent on external circumstances. The success of becoming the person you're meant to be. Number, cultivating deep relationships and meaningful connections. In a world of 7 billion people, the epidemic of loneliness has never been more severe. We are more connected than ever through technology, yet more isolated than ever in our hearts. We have hundreds of social media friends, but struggle to find someone to call when we're facing real challenges. We're surrounded by people, but starving for genuine connection, intimacy, and understanding. This paradox reveals a fundamental truth about human happiness. We are not meant to journey through life alone. We are social beings, wired for connection, designed to find meaning and joy through relationships with others. Yet somehow, in our pursuit of individual success and personal achievement, we've forgotten that the most successful life is not the most accomplished life, it's the most connected life. I witnessed this truth in the most profound way while volunteering at a hospice center, spending time with people in their final weeks and days. Over months of conversations with those facing death, I noticed a pattern that shattered my assumptions about what matters most in life. Not once, not a single time, did anyone express regret about not working more hours, not making more money, not achieving more recognition, or not acquiring more possessions. Instead, every conversation centered on relationships. They regretted not telling people they loved them while they had the chance. They wished they had spent more time with family and friends instead of chasing career goals. They mourned the relationships they had let fade due to pride, misunderstandings, or simple neglect. They realized, with the clarity that comes only at life's end, that love is the only thing that gives life meaning, and connection is the only wealth that truly matters. This revelation changed everything about how I understand success, happiness, and the art of living well. We spend decades building careers, accumulating possessions, and achieving goals, but we often neglect the very relationships that could make all those achievements meaningful. We work overtime to afford better lives for our families while missing the actual lives of our family members. We network to advance our careers while failing to nurture the friendships that could enrich our souls. The tragedy is not just that we're missing out on connection, it's that we're missing out on the very source of sustainable happiness. Research in positive psychology consistently shows that the quality of our relationships is the strongest predictor of life satisfaction, mental health, and overall well-being. People with strong, meaningful relationships live longer, recover from illness faster, experience less depression and anxiety, and report higher levels of life satisfaction regardless of their income, career success, or material circumstances. Yet building deep, meaningful relationships has become a lost art in our culture of instant gratification and surface-level interaction. We've confused networking with friendship, social media engagement with genuine connection, and busy social calendars with meaningful community. We've forgotten that real relationships require time, vulnerability, consistency, and the willingness to show up for others, even when it's inconvenient. The foundation of meaningful connection is not shared interests or mutual benefit, it's mutual understanding and authentic presence. It's the willingness to be seen, known, and accepted for who you really are, and to offer that same gift to others. This kind of connection cannot be rushed, purchased, or manufactured through clever social strategies. It can only be cultivated through consistent, genuine investment in another person's well-being, growth, and happiness. Mother Teresa, who dedicated her life to serving the poorest of the poor, understood this principle profoundly. She said, "We cannot all do great things, but we can do small things with great love." Her approach to connection was not about grand gestures or impressive achievements. It was about consistent, loving presence in the ordinary moments of relationship. This is where most people get relationships wrong. They're waiting for special occasions to express love, appreciation, and care. They save their best selves for important events while offering distracted, depleted versions of themselves in daily interactions. They assume that love and connection should happen naturally without effort, attention, or intentional cultivation. But relationships, like gardens, require consistent tending. They need the water of attention, the sunlight of appreciation, the nutrients of quality time, and the weeding of honest communication about problems before they become overwhelming. Most relationships don't fail because of major betrayals or dramatic conflicts. They fail because of neglect, taking each other for granted, and the gradual erosion of connection through inattention. Think about the relationships in your life that bring you the most joy, peace, and fulfillment. I guarantee they share certain characteristics: mutual respect, genuine interest in each other's well-being, the ability to be authentic without fear of judgment, shared laughter and meaningful conversations, support during difficult times, and celebration during good times. These relationships didn't happen accidentally. They were created through conscious choice, consiste effort, and the willingness to prioritize connection over convenience, depth over superficiality, and love over fear. Dale Carnegie, whose insights into human nature have influenced millions of relationships, discovered that the deepest human need is to feel important, valued, and appreciated. But in our self-focused culture, we often approach relationships asking, what can I get instead of what can I give? We focus on whether others are meeting our needs instead of how we can meet theirs. We wait for others to show appreciation instead of looking for opportunities to express gratitude. This transactional approach to relationships creates shallow connections built on mutual use rather than mutual care. Sustainable, meaningful relationships are built on a foundation of genuine interest in others' well-being, consistent efforts to add value to their lives, and the understanding that the best way to receive love is to give it freely without keeping score. But this doesn't mean becoming a doormat or ignoring your own needs in relationships. Healthy relationships require healthy boundaries, clear communication about your needs and expectations, and the wisdom to recognize when relationships are genuinely toxic versus when they simply require more effort and understanding. The art of deep connection begins with deep listening, not listening to respond. Defend, or resolve, but listening to understand. Most people are desperate to be heard, to feel that their thoughts, feelings, and experiences matter to someone else. When you offer the gift of your full attention, when you listen not just to words but to emotions, when you reflect back what you've heard to ensure understanding, you create space for genuine intimacy and trust. This kind of listening requires you to set aside your own agenda, key it, your internal commentary, and become genuinely curious about another person's inner world. It means asking questions not to gather information for your own purposes, but to help others explore and express their own thoughts and feelings more clearly. Dr. John Gottman, whose research into relationships has revealed the mathematical formulas for lasting love, discovered that successful relationships maintain a ratio of at least 5 positive interactions for every negative one. This means that for every criticism, complaint, or conflict, there need to be at least 5 expressions of appreciation, affection, humor, or support. This research reveals something crucial about the maintenance of connection relationships. Don't fail because of the presence of problems. They fail because of the absence of positivity. Every relationship will face challenges, misunderstandings, and conflicts. But relationships that last are those where the partners consistently invest in appreciation, gratitude, and affection even during difficult times. This investment doesn't require grand gestures or expensive gifts. It requires attention to the small moments, the daily opportunities to express care, appreciation, and love. It's the text message checking on someone during a stressful day, the genuine compliment about something you noticed and appreciated, the willingness to put down your phone and give someone your full attention during conversation. It's remembering details about what matters to people in your life and following up on things they've shared with you. It's celebrating their successes without making it about yourself, and supporting them during failures without offering unsolicited advice. It's being consistent in your care, reliable in your support, and authentic in your expression of love and appreciation. Oprah Winfrey built not just a media empire, but a network of deep, lasting relationships. By understanding this principle, people remember how you make them feel long after they forget what you said or did. She approaches every interaction with genuine curiosity about others' experiences, consistent appreciation for their contributions, and authentic enthusiasm for their growth and success. This approach to relationships transforms not just your connections with others, but your entire experience of life. When you're genuinely invested in others' well-being, you become part of something larger than yourself. When you contribute to others' happiness, you discover a source of joy that external achievements can never provide. When you build authentic community, you create a foundation of support that can weather any storm. But perhaps most importantly, when you learn to love others well, you learn to love yourself well. The compassion, patience, and understanding you extend to others gradually becomes available to you in your relationship with yourself. The forgiveness you offer to others' mistakes becomes a gift you can give to your own imperfections. The encouragement you provide during others' struggles becomes a voice you can access during your own difficult times. This is the paradox of relationships. In learning to truly serve others' happiness, you discover your own. In becoming genuinely interested in other success, you attract success into your own life. In creating space for others to be authentically themselves, you find the freedom to be authentically yourself. The deepest happiness in life doesn't come from getting what you want. It comes from giving what you have. And what you have to give is not your achievements, possessions, or accomplishments. What you have to give is your attention, your appreciation, your presence, your understanding, your encouragement, and your love, number, discovering and living your life purpose. There comes a moment in every person's life when the external markers of success, the job title, the salary, the possessions, the social status, stop feeling like enough. You wake up one morning and realize you've been climbing a mountain, but you're not sure it's the right mountain. You've been running a race, but you're not sure it's toward a destination that actually matters to you. You've been busy, productive, and accomplished, but you're not sure you've been purposeful. This awakening can feel terrifying because it challenges everything you thought you knew about building a meaningful life. But it's actually one of the most important moments in human development, the moment when you stop living someone else's definition of success and start searching for your own definition of significance. I experienced this awakening on what should have been a celebration day. I had just received a promotion that represented years of hard work, strategic networking, and career progression. The salary increase was substantial. The prestige was everything I thought I wanted. And the future opportunities seemed limitless. But as I sat in my new office, looking out at the city skyline, I felt completely empty. That evening, I called my best friend to share the good news. But when I opened my mouth to speak, what came out was not excitement about the promotion, but a question that surprised even me. What if I'm wasting my life doing work that doesn't matter? That question hung in the air between us, loaded with years of unexamined assumptions about what it means to live well. My friend, wise beyond his years, asked me something that changed the trajectory of my entire life. If you knew you only had 5 years left to live, would you want to spend them doing what you're doing now? The answer that emerged from somewhere deeper than my logical mind was immediate and clear. No. That conversation began a journey of discovery that revealed a truth I had been avoiding. I had been so focused on building a successful career that I'd forgotten to build a meaningful life. I had been so busy achieving goals that I had never stopped to ask whether those goals were actually aligned with my values, passions, and deepest sense of purpose. This is the crisis of meaning that millions of people face, often in their 30s and 40s, when external success no longer provides the satisfaction it once did. Psychologists call it the quarter-life crisis or midlife crisis. But it's actually a spiritual awakening, the soul's way of demanding alignment between your outer life and your inner truth. The search for purpose is not a luxury reserved for those who have already achieved financial security. It's not a phase you go through after you've checked off all the practical boxes. Purpose is the foundation upon which sustainable happiness is built, the compass that guides you through difficult decisions, the fuel that sustains you through challenges, and the legacy that outlives your physical existence. But what exactly is purpose? And how do you discover yours in a world full of endless options and competing demands? Purpose is not just what you do for work, though your career can certainly be an expression of your purpose. Purpose is the unique contribution you're meant to make to the world, the specific way you're designed to serve something greater than yourself, the intersection of your gifts, your passion, and the world's needs. Viktor Frankl, writing from his experience in Nazi concentration camps, identified purpose as the primary human drive, more fundamental than the drive for pleasure or power. He observed that those who survived the unimaginable horrors of the camps were not necessarily the physically strongest or most intelligent, but those who maintained a sense of meaning and purpose that transcended their immediate circumstances. He discovered that meaning can be found in three ways: through creating something or doing a deed, through experiencing values like love, truth, or beauty, and through the attitude we take toward unavoidable suffering. This third path, finding meaning in suffering, reveals that purpose is not dependent on comfortable circumstances or perfect conditions. Purpose can be lived and expressed even in, or especially in, the most challenging moments of life. Your purpose is not something you have to create from scratch. It's something you need to uncover, discover, and align with. It's already within you, embedded in your natural gifts, revealed through your genuine interests, and expressed through the activities that make you lose track of time. The challenge is that purpose is often whispered while the demands of daily life are shouted. Joseph Campbell, who studied the myths and stories of cultures throughout history, discovered that every hero's journey follows a similar pattern, a call to adventure. Initial resistance to that call, crossing the threshold into unknown territory, facing trials and challenges, receiving help from mentors and allies, confronting the ultimate ordeal, and returning home transformed with gifts to share with the community. This pattern is not just the structure of great stories, it's the structure of a purposeful life. Your purpose often begins with a call, a sense that you're meant for something more than what you're currently doing. This call might come through dissatisfaction with your current path, through exposure to problems that break your heart, through recognition of gifts you're not using, or through dreams and visions that won't leave you alone. But purpose rarely arrives with a detailed roadmap and guaranteed outcomes. More often, it begins with a single step in the direction of what calls to you. Even when you can't see the entire path ahead, it requires the courage to leave familiar territory and venture into the unknown, trusting that the path will become clearer as you walk it. Steve Jobs, delivering his famous Stanford commencement speech, shared his understanding of this process. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This trust is essential because purpose often requires you to make decisions that don't make sense from a purely logical or financial perspective. It might mean leaving a secure job to start a nonprofit organization. It might mean going back to school to pursue a field you're passionate about. It might mean saying no to opportunities that look good on paper but don't align with your deeper calling. The key to discovering your purpose lies in paying attention to what moves you, what breaks your heart, what you find yourself naturally drawn to when external pressures are removed. Purpose often emerges at the intersection of three questions. What are you naturally good at? What do you love doing? What does the world need that you're uniquely positioned to provide? Your natural gifts are not accidents. They're clues to your purpose. The activities that energize rather than drain you. The skills that seem to come easily while others struggle with them. The perspectives you have that others find valuable. These are all indicators of how you're meant to contribute to the world. But gifts alone are not enough. Purpose also requires passion, genuine love for what you do, enthusiasm that sustains you through difficulties, and intrinsic motivation that doesn't depend on external rewards. When you're living your purpose, work doesn't feel like work. Challenges become opportunities for growth rather than obstacles to endure. Setbacks become temporary rather than devastating because you're committed to something larger than immediate success. Mother Teresa discovered her purpose not through career counseling or strategic planning, but through heartbreak. When she saw the poverty and suffering in the slums of Calcutta, she couldn't turn away. Her purpose emerged from the intersection of her gifts: compassion, leadership, determination. Her passion serving those whom society had forgotten and the world's need care for the poorest of the poor. This is how purpose often reveals itself, not as a lightning bolt of inspiration, but as a persistent pull toward specific problems, populations, or possibilities that capture your imagination and refuse to let go. You find yourself thinking about certain issues when your mind is quiet, drawn to articles and books about particular topics, energized by conversations about specific challenges facing the world. Your purpose might be raising children who become forces for good in the world. It might be creating art that inspires and uplifts others. It might be building businesses that provide meaningful work and serve genuine needs. It might be teaching, healing, organizing, creating, serving, leading, or supporting in ways that align with your unique gifts and passions. The scale of your purpose is not what makes it valuable. The authenticity and consistency of your expression is what creates meaning. A teacher who transforms one student's life through genuine care and excellent instruction is living as much purpose as a leader who influences millions. A parent who raises children with strong values and emotional intelligence is contributing as significantly as an entrepreneur who builds a successful company. Purpose is not about fame, recognition, or external validation. It's about alignment, the deep satisfaction that comes from knowing you're using your gifts in service of something meaningful, contributing to solutions rather than just complaining about problems, and leaving the world a little bit better than you found it. But living your purpose requires more than just discovering it. It requires the courage to act on it, even when that action involves risk, uncertainty, and potential failure. It requires the patience to develop your gifts, the persistence to overcome obstacles, and the wisdom to adapt your approach while staying true to your core mission. Martin Luther King Jr. discovered his purpose, not in a moment of inspiration, but through years of education, spiritual development, and gradual recognition of his gifts for leadership and communication. But discovering his purpose was just the beginning. Living it required him to face imprisonment, death threats, public criticism, and personal sacrifice in service of a vision that seemed impossible to many of his contemporaries. This is the cost of purposeful living. It demands everything you have, but it returns, meaning that makes every sacrifice worthwhile. When you're living your purpose, you're not just earning a living, you're creating a legacy. You're not just filling time, you're fulfilling your destiny. You're not just achieving success, you're creating significance. Number, the art of letting go and embracing change. There is a Japanese art called kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold, silver, or platinum. Instead of hiding the crack, this ancient practice celebrates them, transforming what was once broken into something more beautiful than the original. The philosophy behind kintsugi teaches us that breakage and repair are part of the history of an object, not something to disguise or discard. This art form holds one of the most profound lessons about human happiness. Our cracks, our breaks, our endings, and our losses are not flaws to be hidden, but opportunities for transformation that can make us more beautiful, more valuable, and more meaningful than we were before. But this transformation requires mastering one of the most difficult skills in human experience, the art of letting go. I learned this lesson in the hardest way possible. For 15 years, I built what I thought was the perfect life, a marriage that seemed ideal, a career that was progressing beautifully, financial security that allowed for comfort and freedom, and a clear vision of the future that felt both ambitious and achievable. Then, in the span of 6 months, everything fell apart. The marriage ended despite my desperate attempts to save it. The career I'd invested years in building was eliminated through corporate restructuring. The financial security evaporated through legal fees and division of assets. The future I had planned vanished, leaving me standing in the rubble of what had once been my entire identity. For months, I held on with white knuckles to what was left, trying to force broken pieces back together, refusing to accept that this chapter of my life was over, I spent countless hours analyzing what I could have done differently, bargaining with the universe for a return to the way things were, and raging against the unfairness of circumstances beyond my control. But the tighter I held on, the more painful life became. I was like someone trying to hold water in their hands. The harder I squeezed, the more quickly it slipped away. I was fighting reality, and reality was winning every single battle. Then, in a moment of exhaustion, I simply stopped fighting. I stopped trying to resurrect what had died. I stopped demanding that life return to the way it was. I stopped resisting what was happening and began slowly and painfully to let go. And in that letting go, I discovered something miraculous space for something new to be born. This is the paradox of letting go. By releasing our grip on what was, we create space for what could be. By accepting endings, we make room for beginnings. By embracing change instead of resisting it, we discover that transformation is not the enemy of happiness. It's the pathway to deeper happiness than we previously imagined possible. But letting go is perhaps the most counterintuitive skill for human beings to master. We're evolutionarily wired to hold on, to seek security, to resist change, because change has historically meant danger. Our survival instincts tell us to cling to what's familiar, even when what's familiar is no longer serving us. The Buddha, sitting under the Bodhi tree, 500 years ago, identified attachment as the root of all suffering. Not love, not caring, not commitment, but attachment. The desperate clinging to how we think things should be instead of accepting how they actually are. He understood that suffering comes not from loss itself, but from our resistance to loss, not from change itself, but from our demand that things remain unchanging. In a world where change is the only constant, this doesn't mean becoming passive or indifferent to outcomes. It means holding your goals, relationships, and possessions lightly, caring deeply while remaining unattached to specific results, investing fully while accepting that all things are temporary, loving completely while understanding that love sometimes means letting go. Rumi, the 13th century Persian poet, captured this beautifully. Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you. And do not worry that your life is turning upside down. How do you know that the side you are used to is better than the one to come? This question challenges our fundamental assumption that change is inherently threatening. What if the change you're resisting is actually the pathway to something better than what you're trying to preserve? What if the ending you're fighting is making space for a beginning you can't yet imagine? What if the loss you're mourning is freeing you for gains you haven't yet recognized? The process of letting go happens in stages, and understanding these stages can help you navigate them with more grace and less suffering. First comes denial, the refusal to accept that change is happening. The desperate attempt to return to the way things were. Then comes anger, rage at the unfairness of loss.